You're listening to The Unpenned Show with Paul and Andy, broadcasting live around the world. We believe freedom is free. It is enslavement that you're paying for. If you ain't mad by now, you're not paying attention.
Okay, we live in a world controlled by psychopaths. No doubt about it. We've had Thomas on the show twice now.
We have.
Once at another station and once with us a couple of weeks ago. An interview that we're both very proud of, actually. It went really well. Just finished reading Anvil of the Psyche yesterday. I'm saying finished reading it yesterday. I actually read it yesterday. It's that easy to read. I actually read the whole book, 128 pages, in just short of 3 hours. Easy.
Very good.
Loved it. Fast read. Genuine, easy to relay and repeat and share with people who don't think, so it makes them have to. And that's how I see. That's how I see our task. Really, we know enough now to stop studying the cell that we live in.
Yeah,
we know enough now that we've got to make a key to get out. We've actually got to, we've got to work out how to fashion this key and release ourselves from the cell. We've got ourselves out one box, haven't we?
yeah,
And that's by recognising the cell itself and actually breaking through the bars, which is called limited freedom. And we have limited freedom now because we understand the system and have stopped shouting at it. And thereby, it creates a lot of problems because people can't understand how we can be so calm and yet we say things that are so scary to others.
yeah,
And
suppose.
yeah, how many times have we said, if you're still arguing with people, you really don't have to hang of this? Whether they're awake or asleep, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, no.
If you're arguing, you're not going to get, you're not going to get anything higher.
No,
You know, we have the word pay attention, and I wonder if that comes from pay attention to Sion. I do sometimes, because that was it. Well, it was a 10% deal, wasn't it?
yes, it used to be.
A long time ago, it was
the
10%.
tithe ban.
That's right. Well done. It was played, and the word Sion comes in all sorts of pen Sion and ten Sion and man Sion. And the Zionists, well, we can decide who they are. They're a small group, powerful maybe, but you know they're meant to be Israelis. You know, Israel. I mean, you just say how you say it, Israel. Well, who knows? I don't care about them really. What I care about is the world that I live in.
Yeah,
And trying to get people to wake up to the trouble that we're actually in. Because we are witnessing the end times of this version of humanity. And this version of humanity has the ability to feel, it has compassion and empathy, it has the ability to fairness and understanding. We're prepared to suffer if we think it's in a good cause.
Yeah.
And you know, we enjoy the small amounts of pleasure and euphoria that we can achieve for ourselves. Life isn't a good deal. But if it was easy, we'd all be rubbish at it. Because it would be too easy. We like the challenge, don't we?
we should
And
do.
adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. So we do like adversity. A man of his time should be prepared to take the challenge, pick up the gauntlet and do what it is that a man's meant to do, which is to make the world a better place for him and his own.
Yeah,
But he should be able to do that without the game being rigged.
that's the
It's
problem.
not a fair ground, is
There
it?
lies the problem.
You see, a fair ground sounds great until you go into it and realise that every bloody game is rigged.
Yeah,
Well, this game's rigged as well.
it is.
Always was, by the way, always was. But the main part of the rigging started in basically the 1800s, really. The mid part of the 1800s. And that was the poison that we now know as inflation. Before then, the monetary system that we have today started in the UK in 1694. And inflation was something that wasn't known. It wasn't, it wasn't in the psyche or the understanding. It wasn't in the money either.
No.
If you buried away £100 in the 1700, for example, and dug it back up in the year 1800, it would be worth the same, and you'd be able to buy the same things for it. It's only big corporations. I know we call them corporations. I think the word is cooperations. It's only by them getting together and basically taking charge of this plan it, as we now have to call it. But before then, the monetary system was, to all intents and purposes, an honest money system. And the empire thrived upon it.
It was when it was money, when it was coins.
When it was actually, it had value built into it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
we used coppers, we used silvers.
Well, that's the earth
with
and the
shilling,
moon and the sun.
and we used gold in sovereigns.
That's right, the earth, the moon and the sun.
It wasn't until they started printing the notes, the actual first note that they printed, which was in the 1600s.
It was, and it was the Rothschilds? Was it the
Yes.
Was it the Rothschilds? So the banking dynasty that we now know is,
Yep.
is basically in charge and has got the planet held to ransom over an illusion called money.
Yep.
They're actually going to basically inherit the entire planet for a monetary system that is nothing but illusion. It's the biggest magic trick I've ever witnessed.
It is.
And it's not magic at all, but it's working on every bugger else, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's
Now, over there, Stu Pop, let's have a look. Now, shall we have an in-house evaluation? 20 signs that might mean you're a psychopath. Now, I want the truth, the whole truth, and we can't tell the truth. No one can tell the truth.
Well, I've read Thomas Sheeran's first book.
You have?
Which is, that does get you ask yourself questions when you're reading that book.
It's because you start having to be honest to yourself
You
and
do.
you realise, yes, you do have those tendencies.
You do have those
But you have to
tendencies.
fight them back.
Exactly.
A gentleman is exactly what the word says, a gentleman. But if you cross his path, if you cross his line, if you've been warned once or twice, then you will have to take the actions that you've allowed him to take. You know, people say, no, I'm not having it. You know, you've offended me, and to be offended was just to be offended.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not happy with the
I'm
way
not
you've
happy with
acted
that,
there.
no. Yep.
And they said, well, I am happy. And they said, well, I'm actually not happy. And they'd go to court and have it out. And it was all actually done in a real manly fashion until the criminal justice system took over.
Yeah.
Maybe it's always been criminal, really, but they had to enslave all those above us first, didn't they? They had to enslave the entire system above us first.
Yes.
For them to do what they're doing to us now.
Yeah.
Which is why the psychopaths at the top had to make all those below, the trickle-down system, had to make all those below psychopaths as well.
Yeah.
Which is why corruption is rife, because psychopaths don't follow the normal rules that you and I would say were fairness, really. I mean, you and I are happy with a reward-based money system, which is you get paid according to your talents.
Yes.
You know, if you have a talent that is over and above and in more demand than everybody else's, then perhaps you should be more successful at that point.
Yeah.
Because the person who doesn't have that talent has the ability to go learn it.
Yes.
You know, them bloody Premiership footballers, 150 grand a week.
Yeah.
I ask everybody the same question every time, and that is that, would you do it? Would you do it? And they all say, of course I would. Yeah, of course I would. All the sound effects have been supplied by Stu Pot tonight. He's a good lad, he really is. Sound effect after sound effect. But they do. Now, 20, let's go for point number one then. Are we psychopaths? Stu Pot, let's go for number one. What is it?
Well, number one is glib and superficial charm.
Is that me? Is that me? Am I just being glib and superficial? I may well have to tick that one in the interim.
Number two,
I'm not having it, by the way. I'm not bloody glib and
gratuitous
superficial. I'm sat
self-will.
here doing this for bloody free, trying to change the future that my little girl's going to live in.
Yeah.
Because if I don't actually change the future of my little girl's, there won't be a bloody future.
There won't be.
There won't be. I mean, I don't know how long we've got left in this current form that we're made. But if we don't turn this around, there will not be.
And we said
We
this.
are going to be automatons, basically.
Our parents and our grandparents have spoilt us, haven't they?
The word spoilt is a horrible word because it
This-
sounds nice in this language, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And
This
it
is
means to
what-
bloody ruin.
It is. It's
It
what
means
we've
if
done.
you spoil something, if you spoil a photograph or spoil a painting,
I want to spoil my kids.
exactly. Then
No.
it's ridiculous.
Wrong.
But if we don't actually turn this around, there'll be no money. We'll be living on privileges and allowances.
Yeah.
We'll be working in a feudal system that they've already told us they want to recreate. The redistribution of wealth is to make us all bloody poor.
It is.
And this is now evident.
It
All
is.
the people who've saved for themselves, who've tried to provide all their needs, who
Just
have
said
left
earlier.
the state to look after those that can't. They've left them alone, paid all the bloody bills,
All the taxes.
and now they are seen as no better
There's
than
no-
those who didn't contribute. Now this gets us into a paradigm fight that I don't want to have. But what I'm trying to show people is the redistribution of wealth has been shown to you now.
Yes.
Okay, if you've got it, we're having it. If you haven't, we'll have to take it off those that's got it, to make sure that you have what you need. Now, those people at the bottom who won't work, don't work, can't work, and didn't learn, they're in trouble. Right? They only exist until this authoritarian system takes full control. And once it has full control, they'll not need the people at the bottom to vote for the ones that offer them the best benefits. Because that's how this has been done over the past 30, 40 years. all my lifetime, the party that says, those of you, the ones that offer the best benefits, is the party that they'll vote for.
They'll vote for,
this
yeah.
is how simple politics has really been over the years.
Yeah.
Because the people on benefits only hear what they want to hear. And I'm not saying those people on benefits are good or bad people, because that gets into an argument that goes nowhere at all. But they vote for the ones that give them the best deal. Well, why wouldn't you? If I was, that's what I would do. And I suppose in my own way, I've voted for the party that would give me the best deal. We all do it. But the largest class now is the benefit class. Every election now will be, and has been, and probably before now, it's not who does the voting. It's who counts the bloody things, isn't it? And in this country, I know this is true, by the way. In this country, after we've had a count, right, after we've had a count of the votes cast, the next day the whole thing, everything's destroyed.
Tis burnt.
Yeah. So if there was any ever comeback of like, hang on a second, there was some misdeeds over there, some misdoings.
Yeah.
We found some ballot papers that weren't I'm sorry, the evidence has been destroyed. Well, you always have to destroy the evidence if you've been up to no bloody good, don't you?
Yeah.
Where were we then? I've gone again. The benefit class, wasn't
The
it?
benefits, yeah.
And that's how it's been done.
It's funny you should mention the benefit class in voting. Have you actually stood, well I'm sure you have, stood and watched what kind of person goes and votes?
Well, I've seen all sorts of people voting, so I don't know.
I used to vote,
It's a fair distribution. There isn't a minority. There isn't a majority of one particular. So, a lot of the people who can't vote to work also can't vote to vote either.
Yeah, but
that's why they have to rig it.
It's not who does the voting; it's who does the counting.
Well, there is that, yes.
I don't think we've had a fair count for a very long time.
No,
I've been to a count actually. I went to a count in '97. The girl that I was with at the time, she worked for the council, and they got offered, I can't remember, about 80 quid I think it was, to go up at the local sports hall,
right,
and they'd spend all night doing the count, which was emptying the boxes and stacking them up on desks in front of them. But all the time that was going on, I can remember, there were two outside bodies wandering around, picking up the biggest piles off each table. So you never got more than 10, 15 or 20 on a pile. And they were being whisked off to a closed office.
Right.
They were being whisked off to a closed count office. So although it looked like the people in the sports hall were actually doing the count, as they were dividing the papers up, the papers were being picked up and taken to a tally count, a tally office. You couldn't tell who'd won. They said that the idea is that we're taking the papers away so you can't forecast the decision. So the decision is secret until we announce it. But the papers were being taken to an office that we weren't allowed in. You know, they were. The count was what they said it was.
Secret till we announce it.
Yeah, you know. The word secret's and the word secretary, isn't it?
Yeah.
It bloody is, yeah. Right, we've only got point number 2. Okay, are we psychopaths? Okay, no, I'm not accepting I'm number 1. I'm not glib and superficial. It can sound like that sometimes, but we wouldn't be sat here doing this for free if that were the case. No. Number 2.
Gratuitous self-worth.
Gratuitous self-worth. Do I think I'm actually something special? No. John Smith's roast beefs and Yorkshire puddings and a chip shop. No, I'm not having that. No. I think that we can't go for that, can we? No.
I'm not Piers Morgan or...
No, we can't. What's number 3?
Need for stimulation or proneness to boredom.
When was the last time you said you were bored?
Oh, crikey. No, I were a kid, I think. Teenager, maybe.
What about you?
I'm not going to go there because bored is to board a ship, so I'm
stop this! This isn't word trickery from me. I don't think I've said I'm bored now for the past 4 or 5 years since I actually discovered the reality of reality.
No,
the depth, the seriousness of it. I mean, I remember in the early days thinking this conspiracy stuff. It can't be as deep as this. It's deeper than that.
Well, I've been running around self-unemployed for the last 12 years.
Self-unemployed? I do like that.
I can't ever say I'm bored. and no, I'm not ever bored.
No, we're not having that. What else goes to?
Pathological lying.
No, pathological means intentional, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
You can't stop yourself. We spoke about that a month or 2 or 3 back, and we said, I'm going to try, and even if it means being a little offensive.
Yes.
You know, I'm a right good singer, mate, so well, I've got some news for you. You're not quite as good as you think you were. You know, even if you have to do that, do you remember, And how did not lying go for you?
Not very well
It's
at
a
all.
bloody disaster, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because you...
We live in a world of true lies, don't we?
People
They're
ask
true.
how you are, and you really want to say, well, I'm not right happy, because I only want to go into a full... and you think, no, that ain't the... So you just go, yes, I'm fine. How are you?
And if you go with the alternative, they sort of go,
Would it something I said?
I'm not asking that again, I won't ask again, and then they take you off your Skype list,
Yeah.
off your bloody mobile phone. What else you got? We'll do the top 10, we won't do the top 20, it's far too many.
Conning and
Cunning.
Yeah, conning basically. This reads like a list of the properties of government rather than.
Of course it does. These are your lawyers, your barristers, your CEOs, your parliament heads. This is who these people are. They don't get to the top by being bloody nice. This is the truthless. I know we say ruthless, but the fact is it's bloody truthless.
Yeah.
That's who gets to the top. The bully ran the playground, didn't he? He wasn't the smartest guy in the playground, but he ran the bloody playground. And how evolution's worked over time is from the cows and the bulls reality. The actual brain boxes who didn't come out at playtime, who weren't really very good at sports, who didn't get the bloody girls, they sat in, played chess, figured out that this is much more important. They now employ the bullies to keep us away from them.
Yeah.
Right. What else you got?
Next one, lack of remorse or guilt.
Do you know, 20 years ago I could say, yeah, I think that's partly me, yeah. I thought I was the best thing since sliced bread, but I only lived in a little place. I lived in a little place and everything I did business-wise was successful. And I thought, I'm bloody good at this. I thought, I'm really bloody good at this. It was a long way down. By God, it was a long way down. And it bloody hurt when I hit the bottom as well. Again, not everything's for sharing, but let me just tell you that I thought, I'm going to say I was there once and I got taught a lesson that I haven't forgotten. So yes, at one point, guilty. Hopefully, other people will judge me. You can't judge yourself, can you? Other people decide.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Shallow effect.
I think we look around and we see that, don't we? We see a shallowness in people, you know, when you actually say, would you really like to make the world a little bit better for your kids? And they go, well, yeah, of course, yeah. But we're not really doing that, are we? We're allowing the control system to get them into more debt.
Yeah.
We're allowing the control system to take away the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic, and common sense. We really need to perhaps consider if this is a good way forward. Well, you've lost them then. That's it, you bloody lost them. Well, that's a bit deep, that, isn't it?
Well, the answer is, well, what can I do about it? But
yeah, but stop watching the bloody news, it's making you feel tiny.
But the answer should be, that's a good question, what do you think we could do about it?
Well, people say, what are you doing? I say, well, I'm talking to people like you. I'm actually trying to help, people who are sat behind... I mean, I think there's tens of thousands of people sat behind the door right tonight. They're sat behind the front door tonight thinking... How am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to pay the electric bill?
Yeah.
I reckon they're probably all sat in one room with all the other doors closed and the radiators off.
I'm one of them.
Yeah,
that's
because,
me.
you know, you're realising that this luxury that we started the show off with, we live like royalty.
Yeah, it's going.
Right, now I'm getting back to the fact and enjoy it, because if you've still got it, you're not going to have it for very much longer.
It's going fast.
Yeah, what number we're on, Stu? Let's do 10 and give it up.
Right, number 8 is callousness and lack of empathy, which kind of follows on from number 7.
No, I think I've always been able to. No, I think I've always been able to do that. No, I'm not going to say not callousness and no, I'm okay with that. No, never.
No,
I'm not guilty of that, and I'm not having it. No. What else you got? Number 10.
No, this is 9. Parasitic lifestyle.
Do we live off other people? No, we don't.
No.
We're all self-employed.
Yes.
Stu's self-employed.
Stu's
You're self-employed. I'm
yeah.
self-employed.
Yeah.
No, we can't be parasitic. No.
Number 10. Poor behavioural controls.
Again, 20 years ago, when I thought I was...
well, that's the thing of use, isn't it?
I think
I got over that quick, but...
Well, I suppose we're hoping that you don't...
That should be something you grow out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you were saying it. But...
What does the system think of us? What does the system think of us? Maybe not us three, because we're trying to be the opposite to this. But let's see what a guest that we've had before, Mr. Mark Passio, says. Listen.
It's a general term for people who have no idea of their dark agenda and who have never looked into any of their ideologies, never have looked into any of their symbolism, can't read their symbolism, don't know what plan they have for them, which is basically eugenics and ultimately extermination. they call the average person who basically doesn't read books, and who doesn't pay attention to what's going on around them, and sits in their house, basically, with the pattern of wake up, go to work, come home, eat, watch TV, go to sleep, and then repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. They call people like that the dead, because they consider that they're not really intelligent, they're completely apathetic, and they'll just continue to do the same thing over and over again, and not care that our rights are being taken away, not care that there's total social inequality and injustice in the world, and they won't take any action. So somebody who is ignorant, apathetic, and lazy, and cowardly, in their mind, isn't alive. Because those are the qualities that really make you alive and human. You have the ability to use your mind, you have the ability to care about something, and then you have the ability to act on something. And they consider that the people of the world are basically not doing any of these three things, and they're not using them in any kind of higher capacity. Okay? All they know is what they're told through the idiot box or in the yellow journalist newspapers. All they care about is their own little individual life, their own little individual situation, or the few people that they surround themselves with on a daily basis, even if they care about that. And they basically don't do anything except the things that are required to procure enough money to put shelter around them, food on their table, and if there's any left over after that, maybe to have some form of entertainment or sexual escapade. And that's about the end of the extent that they act on anything. So therefore, if these three components of consciousness aren't activated, the occult rulers consider those people not alive, literally dead spiritually. And therefore, their rationale is, we're not doing this to real living people. We're doing this to people who are already robots. And therefore, we can't really be held accountable, because these are just dead clumps of flesh, dead clumps of matter. They're not really human beings. That is literally how they think of this. I'm not paraphrasing or, putting my spin on this. I'm telling you, that is exactly how they think of the average person. And I've, heard this from them.
And when you were involved in this, that's why I wanted to, you're like the perfect person, because you have, from an insider, a former insider's view, you understand better than anybody could.
That is Mr. Mark Passio. Then it's not my interview, as you can tell. I actually took that from another guest host. Fantastic, though. I do like Mark Passio. Very much describes the satanic side of this control system. And it is a satanic system, isn't it, guys? It is.
Yeah.
It is. And satanic does it. We can satanic to it means the devil, doesn't it? The red and black guy with the horns, and they think it's fairy tale stuff, isn't it?
They do,
because
but it's not.
They can't decode what's been put in today's music videos. They can't decode the word evil properly, because evil is the deity that stands just outside our line of vision, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is evil. We can call it the devil, because that's the other shoulder, isn't it? That's the guy on the other shoulder.
Yeah.
But evil is the very deity that we can't see, and we have to fight against, because we can resist everything but temptation, and that comes from a very old it's the Lord's Prayer, isn't it? I mean, that's where that and it's been said over the years many times, and it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we can't resist temptation, because the devil is a very tempting so-and-so. He really does turn up as our best friend while robbing us.
Yeah.
He robs us
Speaks our language.
But he robs us of our very spirit, doesn't he? And he gives us false spirits like gin and rum and vodka and Bacardi in their place.
Yes.
And he sees us as the dead. And he doesn't feel guilty stealing off the dead, does he? Because he's made us the dead. We are the dead. We care about nothing except our own survival. But that's a predatory money system.
Yeah.
Which is why they see us like animals. Because we live in the United Animal Kingdom. which is why I started off the cows and bulls, the sheep and the rams and the fish, but the fish analogy that I gave, the fact is that most of the fish were thrown overboard in the early 70s, when the final essence of money, as we would call it, was taken off us, and the whole thing became a counterfeit operation.
Yeah.
Because it was 67, I think, when the last money of any value was minted. Or at least, yes, the last money that actually was worth its face value was about 1967. They threw us overboard, just to quote George Carlin, over 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So, if you were lucky enough to be floating, driving your own ship, and surviving on the surface, well, they've been throwing us overboard ever since, haven't they? You know, you see the analogy of fishermen throwing the fish overboard, because it's us. The analogy is we've been thrown overboard one by one by one by one. And because we're dead, we're sinking. We've done the Monty Python sketch, haven't we? We mentioned that time and time again.
We have, yeah. The dead parrot one.
Yeah, the dead parrot that starts
the
with
very
us.
beginning.
Yeah, the fish tank. the human caricature being dropped in the fish tank, and then the parrot sketch starts off.
It does.
And it's all about us. We're sick as parrots, and we live parrot fashion, and we're dead.
Yeah.
It's unnerving, though, isn't it? Because we have a story. This, I think I mentioned it earlier, but we didn't actually. As usual, I went wandering off. I went wandering off down somewhere else about that lady who's working for the police force with that tweet and the socialists.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I mean we sort of mentioned that before, and I should have played the Mark Passio clip then, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because you see these people sort of the Nazism thing, but Nazism is.
Yeah.
Well, it's to throw people off because they imagine the very person that was Hitler and the very Nazis and what they did, and they think, oh, that couldn't happen here. But they're looking for the wrong thing. Because history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, doesn't it? It comes up with another way of tempting you into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think many people much smarter than I say that Hitler perhaps he pushed on a bit too fast, really. Well, I'm not sure that's true. It doesn't matter.
No,
we're still here, and the
Yes,
same
we are.
people are still in charge, and the same banks are making the same money, and we've got a language that's war and peace, but always leaning towards war. And Nazis is just National Socialists.
Yes.
And what does she say there? What's her quote there?
Well, it's in the Mail. It says, newly elected Tory crime commissioner sparks outcry after tweeting Hitler picture, calling for socialists to embrace their inner Nazism.
Now, doesn't that actually show us? Because what is National Socialism really? What's the word that we should be using for it? It's eugenics, isn't it? It's eugenics.
Yes,
It's
I
eugenics.
suppose so, yeah.
That's what National Socialism. I mean, what was Hitler doing?
He was, yeah. That was eugenics.
That's why I started the show off with, where is your line? Because these people now, they haven't actually got a gun to our head physically, but they're engineering the very social structure that we live in. So we can basically die in a cold house because we can't afford to heat and eat. We can take medication that never cures the problem, but treats us along the way until we've basically run out of money. By which time, I mean, I don't know how many doctors are in amongst this, but if you look at Eyes Wide Shut,
doctrine.
Well, doctors. We use the word doctor to cover up our mistakes, don't we?
Yes.
And doctors only practice. And I think the statistics are out there that the Death Management Service kills more people than anything else. It's number one in the how many people are killed by the Death Management Service each year. But going back to the system that we live in, I mean, we can see now the old people have no value to the system. But they spoke about this in the 20s and 30s, where somehow we were a bit more okay with it, actually, We didn't actually worry about the old people in a way that... Well, they just openly said that the old people, we can't look after them. Well, what families did then was they looked after their own.
They did, and my grandma did. She looked after my great-grandma.
What I was saying was that we weren't harder then. We were more... we had more empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And the state said, look, we can't look after everybody. We can't look after all these old people. You're going to have to do it yourself. So we did. Never even questioned it.
No.
It was only the safety net when that came in that everything started to change, didn't it? It was called a welfare system, but it wasn't welfare at all. we haven't fared well, have we?
No.
We haven't fared very bloody well at all.
It was very unfair.
So, going back to it, I mean, the old people now have no value in this society to many people. I mean, I tell a story, and I'll tell it again about a gentleman who no longer works in the care home that would be just a little bit down the road from me. And he says that he was experiencing on more than one occasion. And he quoted a lady's son who turned up, it'll be 3 or 4 years ago now. And this gentleman said, how's my mum doing? And the carer said, well, not really so good today. In fact, she's not had a good week at all, not eating much, and, well, we're a bit concerned, really. She needs to get some energy back, you know. We're doing what we can, but she's not so good. All right, and he went to see her. And then the next week he comes back again. He said, how was she doing? He said, a lot better. She certainly seems to have perked up this week. We've got her back on the proper foods. She seems much more like her old self. We're delighted. And he went, oh. You know, and there we are. There we are. We're here already, if you know what I mean. We're all looking to the future without realising that it's here. You just have to look a little closer and ask the right questions, and you find that we're already here. Now, to finish off that is that they're actually giving us the ability to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
We know they're jacking the water, they're jacking the food. God knows what they're doing with the air. God knows what they're giving us to keep us happy in the SSRIs or the psychotropic things. And I can tell you about those SSRIs. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I can tell you that what's been said about SSRIs is correct. It is absolutely correct. Now, what a lot of people aren't picking up on is, it is when the doctor changes your SSRI. Because
what does that stand for?
It's the serotonin reuptake inhibitors. I'm not sure about the first S.
Right.
But it is SRIs. And these are... I can't give you the actual... But basically, they close off the doomsday scenario. They close your brain off.
Right.
The part that is a problem.
So they suppress...
So you're always pretty
parts
happy.
Parts of your brain.
Yeah, you're always pretty happy. Even though, I mean, we're having to be drugged now just to accept this reality. But that's what's happening.
It is.
I mean, this is driving people mad, so you have to be drugged just to get through a day.
Jesus.
It's been going on for some time, hasn't it? But these these SRIs, I can tell you, and people aren't saying this, and I don't know why they're not saying it, it's when they change it. Now, I'm aware of 2. One was called citalopram. Okay, now, I know somebody who was on citalopram, and the doctor said, right, I know, and the doctor said, what we'll do is, we'll try these different ones and see how they go. Now, I know they were called sertraline, right? And this is somebody very close to me, and I'm not going any further. Not everything's for sharing, not every detail. And I know, on the very day that they changed from citalopram to sertraline, that person became somebody I'd never met before. I'd never seen that person before. And they didn't care. They would have done anything. Themselves, others. The change was terrifying. And it was only that I thought, it's these bloody tablets. It has to be. Nothing else has changed. And that was a day that stayed in my memory, and it'll stay in my memory till I die. The change that was done by that one citalopram to sertraline. And I've remembered those. I knew. I remembered the names, and I thought, if I see anybody else on this, I'm going to relay this story to them. And say, if you're doing okay on that one, don't change. Because it's the change over time that it goes bloody mad. And this person went absolutely off the scale, scared me, wouldn't let them out, wouldn't let them be on their own. They wanted to do something that they would never do. Whew.
Yeah.
We have, actually, a guest coming on in about 10 minutes' time.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a bit about him while we're getting ready for him, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Because it's a pleasant surprise. Pleasant surprise. That's what we've got coming. So let's get ourselves sorted out then, because I do want to give him a little bit of time.
Now, my grandmother was a wonderful person. She taught me how to play the game Monopoly. She understood that the name of the game is to acquire. She would accumulate everything she could, and eventually she became the master of the board. And eventually, every time, she would take my last dollar, and I would quit in utter defeat. And then she would always say the same thing to me. She'd look at me and she'd say, one day, you'll learn to play the game. One summer, I played Monopoly with a neighbor almost every day, all day long. We'd play Monopoly for hours. And that summer, I learned to play the game. I came to understand the only way to win is to make a total commitment to acquisition. I came to understand that money and possessions, that's the way that you keep score. And by the end of that summer, I was more ruthless than my grandmother. I was ready to bend the rules if I had to win that game. And I sat down with her to play that fall. I took everything she had. I destroyed her financially and psychologically. I watched her give her last dollar and quit in utter defeat. And then she had one more thing to teach me. Then she said, now it all goes back in the box. All those houses and hotels, all the railroads and utility companies, all that property and all that wonderful money. Now it all goes back in the box. I didn't want it to go back in the box. No, she said. None of it was really yours. You got all heated up about it for a while. But it was around a long time before you sat down at the board. And it will be here after you're gone. Players come and players go. But it all goes back in the box. Houses and cars, titles and clothes, filled barns, bulging portfolios, even your body. Because the fact is that everything I clutch and consume and hoard is going to go back in the box, and I'm going to lose it all. That's not much of an ROI on that. You have to ask yourself, when you finally get the ultimate promotion, when you've made the ultimate purchase, when you buy the ultimate home, when you have stored up financial security and climbed the ladder of success to the highest rung you can possibly climb it, and the thrill wears off, and it will wear off, then what? How far do you have to walk down that road before you see where it leads?
And it leads to self-destruction. So, back on the show then, the last 25 minutes. Everything we've talked about tonight, all the links will be up on YouTube, or below the YouTube, including the Channel 4, your Facebook, my Facebook. This full Blog Talk podcast will be there as well. Next week's link to next week's show, all done and dusted.